house, you have to pass the inspection of the building codes. How much more when we build for Yah, His house, does He expect us to pass inspection? Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 3 of the Torah portion, Teitze. Let's go to Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 22, verse number 8. When you build a new house, then you shall make a parapet for your roof, so that you do not bring blood guilt on your house when one falls from it. So as a safety precaution, the homes in those days, much like modern day Israel, the homes oftentimes have a flat roof. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But the design is such that it requires a reasonable height wall to be established there so that one doesn't accidentally fall off of the edge. So it is a building code precaution to keep one's home from incurring then a lawsuit, a wrongful death claim. You take the precaution. That's the surface level reading. From that, we can begin to derive a spiritual principle when we are building a house. And this could talk about our family's home, not just the physical structure, but the relational understanding and aspect. When we are building a congregation, again, not just the building. The congregation is not a building. That's just where they meet. We're talking about the relational group of covenant people. When we are assembling ourselves, either as family or as a community or as a congregation, we need to do so with certain precautions in mind, protections established, so that someone doesn't fall horribly, we would say fall away even from Messiah, and therefore incur harm. We don't want to be those that would be accused and given a accusation of being liable for that. So how do we do that? How do we establish righteous relationships without going to the extent of some and building fences? Not hurling stones against those who have what we call fences around the commands. I understand their culture, understand their thinking and what they're trying to accomplish. I disagree, but I understand. So while I'm not making an accusation or hurling an insult or word against them, I don't want to do the same. I don't want to have customs and traditions, mechanics, ideologies, or even interpretations that limit what it is that Yah is wanting to do, or that would constrain us from following after Him with a pure heart. Yeshua said to us in the book of Matthew, chapter number 7, He says in verse 24, "Therefore everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like a wise man who built his house on the rock, that is, upon the identity and the claim of Yeshua as the Messiah. The rain came down, the floods came, the wind blew and beat on that house and did not fall. It was founded on the rock of truth, the solid rock of Yeshua. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them shall be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain came, the floods came, the wind blew, the beat on that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. And it came to be when Yeshua had ended these words that the people were astonished at his teachings." Again, his teachings is what he's saying you need to obey. His words and the Father's words are one and the same. So to hear the words of Yeshua is to hear the words of the Torah, to walk in obedience and the implementation of the Torah is to build your relational house on solid ground. That is not to say that everybody is going to get along, that everybody's going to be perfectly aligned, and that everyone is going to 100% agree. What it should mean, though, is that when people are dysfunctional, when they have issues, when they need deliverance, when they have problems, that we have an agreeable foundation that we're all standing on. Look, our effort here is to honor and to glorify Messiah Yeshua and to implement his teachings and what he says to do. Now, what does the word say to do about our complaint, our issue, our situation? To the best of our ability, we follow that. We have then a parapet, a knee-high wall or a waist-high wall that would surround our house, the way we'd say, we're going to build on the Word. If we go over into the book of Mark and chapter number 7, Yeshua was critical of those who were criticizing him for eating with what they deemed to be unwashed hands. This is not that they had dirt under their nails, but rather that they had not ceremonially washed their hands, which was a tradition of the elders and a command of men. Yeshua said, this people respect me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. That's verse 6. And in vain they do worship me, teaching as teachings the commands of men. Forsaking the command of Elohim, you hold fast the tradition of men. So he said, well, do you set aside the command of Elohim in order to guard your traditions? When our mechanics, our mindsets, our traditions, our culture, our habits, our mechanisms of worship are more important than the word, then we have an issue, we have a problem. We are destroying the walls of protection. And so we need to understand, Yah is saying to us, guard my word, and my word will guard you. In the book of Luke, chapter number 14, it says in verse 28, for who of you, wishing to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he's laid the foundation and is unable to finish it, all who see it began to mock him, saying, this man began to build, was unable to finish. The goal here is to not only finish, but to finish well. If we're going to start a congregation, if we're going to build our home, a couple that says it's time to start having a family, we want to bring children into this world, there has to be an agreeable foundation. Likewise, there has to be a counting of the cost. What is it going to cost us in our relationship, out of our finances, out of our obligations, out of our expectations? What is it that we're looking for? Sitting down before you ever start and start writing some things down, having a plan, having a purpose, having a design goes a long ways and answering the questions that are bound to come up. Anytime that you're dealing with people and you're dealing with the spiritual nature of these people, you can expect and anticipate, rightly so, that you're going to deal with stuff that you would rather pass off and let it go on down the road. But when people come to us broken, hurting, in need, when people come to us and ask questions, we're supposed to have an answer. We're supposed to ask for an answer. There are sometimes my answer is, I don't know. Let me pray and find out. Let me study on this for a while. But you have to get back and give an answer. When you deal with people and you're dealing with the ugly side of people, the hurting, broken side of people, it can get messy. But if you know the ground that you're standing on is solid ground, if you know that you're doing your best to walk in obedience to his commands, then you have a level of protection. If somebody says, I think we ought to dance on the top of the parapet, I think we ought to kind of hang over the side, I think we need to be risk takers, I think we need to fudge on the rules here a little bit. That wall, that Torah is there for a purpose. and it is to guard and protect us. Stay well guarded today, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, shalom.